Hey, the World Cup is here. That is, the World Cup of FIFA, the International Federation of Association Football. But wait, football? I thought it was a soccer match. Is it football or soccer? You probably know by now that what the rest of the world calls football, Americans call soccer. To us here in North America, including Canada, football is this: a sport where you can throw and catch the ball with your hands. And soccer is this, where you're only allowed to use your feet. Now, why the difference? And why call it soccer anyway? There's a lot of misinformation out there, like this comment from a discussion board. Americans made up the word soccer, just like they call jam jelly. But I have to tell you, that is total and complete BS. Americans did not invent the word soccer. Who did? The Brits did. And to understand how it all unfolded, we have to go back to the very beginning. You see, before the 19th century, every place had its own version of football. What is football? Football is not called football because you kick the ball with your feet. It's called football because it's played on foot, as opposed to on horseback, like polo. So basically, if you run around the field chasing a ball, it's football. The problem, though, is that every place had its own rules for football. In some places, you could pick the ball up and run with it. In other places, you're only allowed to kick it with your feet. And if you want teams to compete with each other, well, you kind of have to have a single set of rules for everybody. And so in 1863, the Football Association of Great Britain created a single set of rules which clearly stated that no player shall take the ball from the ground with his hands. And thus was codified the variety of football where only the foot touches the ball. But the other variety, the kind where you can pick up the ball with your hands, well, that did not die out. In fact, it was still popular, and especially popular at a particular boarding school in England called rugby school. So at that time, football basically split into two. You had association football, where you could only use your feet, and then you had rugby football, where you're allowed to use your hands. By the 1880s, nicknames for the two types of football began to appear. Association was shortened to a sock or sock, and rugby was shortened to rug. So association football became known as soccer, and rugby football became known as rugger. In other words, the two terms soccer and rugger, soccer using the feet, and rugger using the hands, both of these terms came from England. Between soccer and rugger, soccer was by far the more popular variety in England, and it eventually went by the more generic name of football. By the 20th century, when you talk about football in England, you're basically talking about the kicking variety, and because of that, the term soccer gradually fell out of use. The variety where you use your hands, meanwhile, was known as rugby. In North America, however, it was the exact opposite. The more popular variety was the one where your hands were allowed. It evolved, however, into a different game than rugby, which they eventually called gridiron football, and in the end, just football. This became the dominant variety of football in North America. Now, if football was used to refer to a sport where you used your hands in North America, what do you call the type of football where you only use your feet? Obviously, you can't call it football too, right? So you're left with the legacy name soccer, which had already fallen out of favor in Britain, but it was kept alive in the Americas. And that is why soccer is used for the sport in North America, not because North Americans invented it, but because football means something else here. So at this year's World Cup in LA, should you call it football or soccer? The International Federation FIFA will be calling it football, along with media organizations from around the world. But the United States Soccer Association, along with American marketers and media, will be calling it soccer to avoid confusion with the NFL. Which one you pick will ultimately depend on who you're talking to. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Remember to like this video if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you next time.